Hello and welcome to That Shooting Show. My name is Steve Anderson. I am your humble host. Want to thank our partners first. You know them, you love them. Say it with me. Walther Firearms is the proud title sponsor of this program and of AndersonShooting.com in general. And I got to remind you, PDP, Hyundai P, money back guarantee, and any of the other competition appropriate Walther firearms also come with a Hyundai P money back guarantee. If you don't like that thing for any reason, Walther's going to refund that money and they're going to take that pistol back and you can replace it with an inferior firearm of your choice. It's up to you. It's totally up to you, but you got to try it. You got to get your hands around a steel frame Walther PDP. You will feel like you are wielding the sword of Gibraltar. It'll be that powerful. There's just a feeling you get from picking that thing up that's like, this feels like home. This fits my hand. This has a very comforting heft to it. It's awesome. Just go check it out. And if you don't like it, Walther will give you your money back. And of course, Targets USA manufactures the finest steel targetry on the planet. CR Speed makes the finest gun handling gadgetry you can wrap around your waist or anywhere else. AMG-lab.com Commanderson Timer continues to be the best timer on the market. Guys, I don't know what to say about the lead time. He's making these things as fast as he can. You will get a timer. I just cannot tell you when. Rest assured, it will be worth it when you get it. And of course, Hunter's HD Gold is the only eyewear that I wear. When we did the Steel Challenge extravaganza last weekend, it was overcast, cloudy, rainy, miserable, cold, and the guy was like, I don't know which lenses to wear. And I just walked over to my bag and I was like, these are the only lenses you will ever need. The rubies are great for bright sunlight, but they don't excel in changing conditions. The regular Hunter's HD Gold excel in any lighting conditions. You won't know when the sun comes out because your vision won't change. Your skin will get hot and tingly. You might get moist in some areas, but your vision won't change. Sun goes away, you might get chilly, you might get cold, but your vision won't change. Hunter's HD Gold gives you consistent vision from sun up to sundown and everything in between. And if you have trouble driving at night, like me, for example, I can see great in the rain, I can see great at night. But for some reason, I must have a stigmata or a stigma or an astigmata, or maybe a stigmatism. I don't know what that would be. But for some reason, at night in the rain, I don't see very well. Hunter's HD Gold clears that right up like an exorcism for your problem. So, an exorcism for your embarrassing problem. Stigmata, stigma, stigmatism. Make your own jokes. I already did. And of course, Shooting Sports Innovations is a lot to type because let's see when you get there. Go ahead and type it out. ShootingSportsInnovations.com. It's hard to do, but when you get there, it will be worth it. You'll be treated to a vast array of a veritable cornucopia of shooting accessories that you didn't even know that you needed. Promo code Anderson gets you 10% off and a free David Lee Roth approved Rage Towel. Rage Towel. I suppose in David Lee Roth's case, it might be a Rage Towel, but it's actually a range towel, and you got to wear it on the back of your belt to make it David Lee Roth approved. If you don't know why, just Google pictures of David Lee Roth in a towel and you'll understand immediately why that is the case. And of course, Outdoor Dynamics remanufactures the finest competition ammunition you can dispense from a Freedom Seed dispenser, preferably a Walther. All right, so you can always go to upcoming classes and see where we're at and what we're doing. We have 2 opportunities for mental management this month that are almost full. One is on a weekend, one is on a weekday evening, so check those out. We have several classes with Joey Sauerland, the complete practical shooter and immersive experience. So that's mental management with me, half the day, and then half the day on the range with me, working on shot calling, match mode, and accuracy at speed. Joey takes the other half of the group and works on technical things, and then we swap on day 2. And, you know, coming out of that experience, Joey also does a segment on physical fitness. And so if you're like, okay, I'm all in, I'm ready to go get this thing, the classes I'm doing with Joey Sauerland include the physical fitness portion that I am not an expert in, but they give you everything you need to know to get to the next level. And the ones I know of right away are California, Virginia, and Michigan. So go to upcoming classes at AndersonShooting.com. You can find those. We just added Richmond, California yesterday, and it's already starting to fill up. So if you want to do it in Richmond, California, you better jump in there quick because it's already starting to fill up. I just added one for me solo in Vermont. There's also Golden Valley, Arizona. There's also Wichita, Kansas. There's also Port Townsend, Washington, which is somewhere near Seattle, and many more places all across the country. And we are adding those very rapidly. There should be one in New Jersey coming soon. And of course, the Mental Management Online is there. And you can always come to beautiful Newark, Ohio, in the shadow of the famous Longaberger Basket office building. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Longaberger Basket building. And our location is about 5 minutes away from that. So you can put your pin right in it. You can put your pin in the basket. I was considering buying that basket. It's on sale for $1.2 million. I was considering buying a basket and starting an egg business in the basket. But there's two problems with that. Number one, you can't store all the eggs there. You have to have a second building because you can't keep all your eggs in one basket. And you could never do inventory. Ever. Because you can't count your chickens before they hatch. A couple of good dad jokes for you. Now, I got a letter from a buddy who had a disappointing match. And we need to talk about what to do after a bad match. So here's what he says, and we'll go over all this. I should have listened to your podcast before Nationals. It was a train wreck. I'm putting my head in place, and I think I can solve what is happening. And I said, you know what to do in matches? You just deviated for some reason, most likely worrying about results. And then he said, it was so bad that I had 11 penalties in a match with 14 stages. I think I figured out what is happening. I'm having negative imprints from my training because I want to shoot like a GM that trains with me, and I'm getting frustrated because I can't shoot in his speed and can't figure out a way to do it. This match was all about fast stages, so I overtried really hard. How can I get back on the wagon and trust my normal speed would be enough? I know I have to write in my journal about that match, but how should I do with was a disaster? English is not his primary language, so bear with me and him. So, what to do after a bad match? These are not in perfect order, but it is very complete. So I didn't have enough time to really sit down and put these in the exact order, but I do know it's absolutely complete. So, meaning we might skip around a little bit, but these are all things that you need to do. Okay? Number one, learn what you need to learn and let it go. And the best way to treat something like this is to say, next time I will, as opposed to screwed this up, screwed that up, went over here and screwed this pooch, went over there and did it again, came back over here and wet the bed, went over here and created an excrement presentation on PowerPoint, went back over here and stunk it up big time. You got to quit talking about it. Bury the evidence. Delete the videos and quit talking about it. Do not think or speak of these mistakes ever again. If you want to address them, say, next time I will. And you guys aren't going to believe me, and most of you aren't going to do it, but you've got to refer to your errors, technical and mental, in the past tense. If you want to address them, I used to have trouble on classifiers. Now I know what to do. In the past, I struggled with one-handed shooting. Now I'm dry firing it every day, and it's becoming a strength. Refer to your problems in the past tense, or they will accompany you to the match. Believe me now, believe me later. Doubt me now, believe me later. Whatever you want to do, I'm just telling you the truth. What you got to avoid is becoming an expert in how and why you're losing. When athletes or teams get into a slump, they have become experts in how and why they're losing. You can spot them a mile away because the guy will say, well, I've been working really hard, but I stunk it up again. He's become an expert in losing. You don't hear winners talking like that. A winning streak is when you become expert in how and why you're winning. Well, you're telling me just to ignore my mistakes, ignore my problems, and just paint myself a big old picture of a pink unicorn covered in rainbows with a gold medallion for second place loser. It's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying at all. You made that up. What I'm saying is when you're getting what you want, you have to become an expert in what you're doing. When you're not getting what you want, you have to resist the temptation to become an expert in getting it wrong. The more you think about your mistakes, the more you talk about them, the more you tell your friends, the more you post your blooper reels on Facebook, the more you talk about this stuff, the more it becomes you. That is the problem. Your mistakes with repetition are becoming you. The only way an idea becomes normal is repetition. So when you're getting what you want, that can become normal with repetition. When you're not getting what you want, that will become normal with repetition. So you immediately got to solve the problem. Immediately. And you do that by identifying the solution. The solution will be one of these things. Okay? It'll be technical. We'll come back to that in a minute. It's most likely to be mental. We'll come back to that in a minute. It's going to be a failure of some kind of strategy, skill, or confidence. And it's most likely strategy or confidence. We don't give a lot of technical advice on this program because you can get the skills you need all over the place. There's never been more instructors right now telling you how to put 12% more pressure in your pinky grip, telling you how to hold your feet, telling you what to do with what muscles. In fact, I'd say, if anything, we have too much information. But I'm the only guy standing over here waving my arms going, I know how to fix this. I know how to fix this. Okay? There's some free dog noise for you. Okay, so it's going to be a strategy. Could be stage strategy. It could be stage prep. It could be match strategy. There could be a failure there. It's probably not a failure of skill, which we'll come back to in a minute, and it's most certainly a failure of confidence. I've been telling you guys, I don't even know for how long, that confidence is at least 30% of success. And if you're worried about results, you are not confident. And you're not getting access to your skill. Could be a problem with equipment, although that's not really what we're talking about here. We will address that. Could be an issue with conditions. Not really what we're talking about here, but we'll address it. And it could be handling pressure, which we will talk about because that is a possibility. Pressure, guys, I can help you with pressure so easily, and we're going to. Let's assume that the problem was technical. That's very unlikely for people listening to this program, but let's go through it anyway. I need to be able to perform the technical skills required of this match. It's very unlikely that you don't possess the skills for the vast majority of the match. This will be extremely rare, except for beginners or people that are new to the sport, which is kind of the same thing. Meaning, when I went to learn silhouette rifle shooting, my errors were more technical than mental. I'm not that great currently at holding a rifle still on sticks. I've never tried to do that before. So I need to practice that if I want to get better. But my mental game was rock solid 100%. Okay? So it's very unlikely that the entire match had technical things that you can't do, but it is possible that a stage or two. You know, if you think about the 37-yard poppers at Handgun Nationals, formerly Iron Sight Gun Nationals, now Limited Optics Jump on Board Nationals, 37-yard mini poppers, that may not be a skill that you have. Okay, but that's just one stage of the match. Now, that match had some other difficult shots, so if you struggled with that match, there might be a technical problem. Okay, Care Optics Nationals had 25-yard strong hand only. You just may not be very good at that. But that wasn't the whole match. That was only one stage. Okay? So if you think it's technical, make a list of what the match required that you need to master. Master these things in training and actively acknowledge the improvement. You must see every skill as great or improving. If you listen closely, you can hear a Great Dane eating ice cubes. They love their ice cubes after a walk. Every skill must be seen as great or improving. You're telling me to gloss over my mistakes. I didn't say that. If your skills aren't great or improving, you need to do something about it. If you have a skill that's not improving, that's on you. But you've got to see them that way, and you've got to follow through with training to make them that way. Now, the failure is almost certainly mental. Okay? And it's going to be one of two things. I need to stick to my established mental process, or I need to develop an established mental process. You'll be in one of those two groups. Either you have an established mental process and you deviated from it, or you don't have an established mental process and you need to create one. Okay? Mental management mental management grads will always find a deviation from flowchart, journal, or directive affirmation. That means you didn't take your flowchart or you didn't stay on it. You haven't been working in your journal, so you don't know what you're doing when you're getting it right. Or in a worst case scenario, you're writing down your mistakes, which is even worse. Or you're not following through on your directive affirmation. One of those three things. Okay? So if you have an established mental process, one of two things happened. Either you undertried or you overtried. So we need to know that. And in the case of my buddy, he overtried. He attempted to duplicate the pleasing oral, not oral, but oral cadence of a grandmaster. He is not currently a grandmaster. Therefore, that cadence is not going to be his cadence. And he overtried. Now, the fascinating thing was he got exactly what he wanted. He shot at the speed of his grandmaster buddy. So the reality is he made a choice, and he got the results of that choice. We just need to make a better choice. So undertrying is when you slow down to get your hits, which will be disappointing but not disastrous. So if you're a contender to win your class and or division, and you slow down to get your hits, third, fourth, or fifth, you'll be ahead of the guys that made a lot of mental mistakes, but you'll be behind the guys that are shooting subconsciously. And that's just all there is to it. Overtrying is far more likely, and that is going to cause many mental errors. And the reason we're getting so many mental errors is because anytime you consciously control your speed, your conscious mind has to learn to do things all over again. So the way it works is your conscious mind teaches your subconscious how to do things, and then it moves on to something more interesting. But if you're overtrying, which always leads to overthinking, the conscious mind now has to relearn how to do these things one at a time. This is why you miss your grip when you're thinking about your draw. This is why you overrun a position if you're trying to count your steps or put 12% pressure in your pinky toe with a 45-degree angle of your left foot. The conscious mind has to do those things. And more importantly, it has to learn to do them on the spot. It's not good. Okay? Undertrying is caused by a fear of making mistakes. Overtrying is caused by a fear of being slow. And what they both have in common is conscious control of subconscious skill. That's what they have in common. Let me turn on my Do Not Disturb here. Okay, Do Not Disturb, and we're good. Sorry, Arik. Arik Levy is screaming at his radio right now. You're supposed to turn on Do Not Disturb before you start. Well, I got it done eventually. So, if you don't have an established mental process, it is very likely that you're getting disappointing matches on a regular basis. Now, you may be unconscious competent, which means you don't know what you're doing when you're getting it right, but I do. If you're unconscious competent and you don't know what you're doing when you're getting it right, here's what's happening. You have a subconscious stage plan, you have strategy, you have the skill to complete the task, and you're not worried about the results. Unconscious competent people do phenomenal when they're not worried about the results. That's why so many people, so many national mid-packers can win locals and regionals because they're not worried about the results. But they go to nationals and they go, I know I'm not good enough to win this thing, so I got to find something extra somewhere. I got to really dig deep. I got to try really hard. And look, here I am in the middle of the pack again. Yeah, it must be where I belong. Man, I could do a whole show on that. But people that are unconscious competent do really well when they're not worried about the results. Take one of these national mid-packers, he always wins his local match. He could 0-2 stages and win his local match. He could go to an area match and win that one because there's nobody as good as him or as fast as him, and he knows it. But when he goes to nationals, he doesn't feel that way. and he overtries, and he winds up in the middle of the pack again. The mental failure in USPSA IPSC Steel Challenge, virtually any practical shooting event, is the conscious control of speed. And if we have a lack of a subconscious stage plan, that's even worse. If you lack a subconscious stage plan and you're controlling speed, that is a recipe for disaster. Even with a subconscious stage plan, the conscious control of speed is always going to be an error. Always. 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 I'm going to go fast over here. I'm going to slow down and get my hits on this one. Okay, well, you probably went too fast and too slow in both of those environments. You can always tell when somebody's slowing down to get their hits because everything is slowed down. The draw slows down. The reload slows down. The movement slows down. Even shots on close targets slow down. What are we doing here, gang? What in the name of Ronnie James Dio? What are we doing? When are we going to learn to get it right and stay with it? So, if it's equipment, we touched on that one. I had a PRS shooter on Mental. I got to tell you, I am loving working with PRS. Loving it, loving it, loving it. He's having equipment problems. Okay, the guy's a national champion. He might even be a world champion. He's having equipment problems. Fix or replace immediately. I remember a couple years ago, there was a guy, a sponsored shooter, taking a broken gun to match after match after match and then touting his sponsors. Hey, my name is Pete from Poughkeepsie, and I'm sponsored by Pew Pew Firearms. I went to Area 2 and my gun didn't work again. Please go buy a Pew Pew firearm. What are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we taking a broken gun to matches? And if we are, why are we pointing out that the broken gun supplied by our sponsor that we're trying to get people to buy guns from is ruining the match? What are we doing? Fix or replace. And if you have a good relationship with your firearm sponsor and something's not working, say, hey, we got to get this thing figured out because our names are being damaged by this unreliable piece of equipment. Don't take junk to the match. What are we doing, gang? Conditions can cause a disappointing match, and there's a couple things going on there. You're probably not training in the conditions in which you suffered. For example, if there is a match in the freezing cold and they make you shoot barefoot and it's covered in Legos, Jay Beal is going to win that match. Nobody will even come close. My point is, if you don't train in poor conditions, you got two problems. You don't know how your body and your gear behave in these conditions, and you're already afraid. Oh, man, it's raining. I shoot like crap in the rain. Oh, man, it's freezing cold and the range is covered in Legos. I got to shoot barefoot. Jay Beal is just licking his chops. He's like, man, I got goat minerals on my hands. I got calluses on my feet from stepping on Legos all day. I am ready to go. So train in poor conditions and over-prepare for variables. 20-degree swing in the forecast. Any precipitation that's precipitous, train in it, prepare for it. It's as simple as that. I don't know if you can be the best poor weather shooter there, but you can certainly be the best prepared poor weather shooter. You can certainly prepare for a 20-degree swing in the temperature. You can certainly prepare for precipitation. You can certainly get in the shower with your optic and see what it does in the rain. Now, here's the other thing you can do. Or maybe you can't. You can go back in your journal and read about your best shooting. Oh, but you can't because you're not keeping a journal. And you didn't write down the details of your best match. And even though I told you to, you didn't do it. Well, I'm a grown man. Journals are for teenage girls. Dear diary, I like a boy. It's not what it's about. Go ahead and say out loud. I'm listening. How much would you pay for a book about your best shooting and how to duplicate it? My name is Fred. This is what I do when I'm getting what I want. Bink, bink, bink. Oh, I've got a match coming up. I want to do well. I'll tell you what, let me go back and read about the best match I ever had and see what I was doing when I was getting what I want. Oh, I can do those things. But here's the problem. We know far more about losing than we do winning. Shoot like crap in the rain, shoot like crap in the mud, shoot like crap in the snow, always crumble under pressure. Great. That's wonderful. Or when I get a subconscious stage plan and commit to calling every shot, I tend to win stages. Oh, hey, those are things I can do. If you are keeping a journal, you probably didn't read about your best shooting prior to the match. Or you make another mistake people make in mental management, which is, hey, this is going so good. Imagine how great it'll go when I put a little speed on it. Man, I'm centering the dot and I'm calling my shot like a true professional. I am made of this. Now watch what happens when I put speed on it. Okay. So my buddy asked, let me do a quick time check here. Okay, we're doing pretty good. How do I journal the disappointing match? You have a percentage of the time you ran your mental system correctly. Put a number down. 20%. If that number is lower than normal, that's great news because we know what the problem is, which means we know what the solution is. Meaning if you had a 20% mental performance and that deviates from an 80% or a 90%, which is normal, that's great. And if you're not keeping a journal and you're not writing this down, you will never know the state of your mental game. Well, I can look at my results. Well, your mental game exists outside of the results. Okay. Then you have a percentage of the time you ran your technical system correctly. This is how well you shot according to your current level of skill. Put a number down. It'll be very close to the mental number. And when you write down what I learned after a disappointing match, it starts like this. Next time I will. So you refer to your mistakes as if you've already solved them. Next time I will see what I need to see. Next time I will get a subconscious stage plan. Whatever the solution is for the problem you've encountered, write down the solution, not the problem. As opposed to next time I will not attempt to duplicate a GM cadence. Don't write that down. Next time I will see what I need to see. The next section of the Mental Management Journal says I'm looking for a solution. This is designed to get you thinking about a solution instead of a problem. I'm looking for a solution to having 11 mics on 14 stages. Well, geez there, genius. What do you think the solution might be? Oh, I don't know. See what you need to see? Guys, 11 mics on 14 stages can only be sight or trigger. And at the intermediate to advanced, it's far more likely to be sight. Beginners more likely to be trigger because beginners know something that experts don't know. Hey, I'm a beginner. Guess what I know? A poor sight picture produces a poor shot, so I'm going to get a good sight picture. What the beginners don't know is that whacking the trigger on a perfect sight picture tends to produce a poor shot. They got to learn that. But the experts know how to pull the trigger correctly. They just have forgotten, especially in iron sights, that a poor sight picture produces a poor shot. Imagine that. Hey, look at this. My sights are over there. I'm going to pull the trigger anyway. Oh my goodness, I got a miss. I wonder why. You didn't see what you needed to see. And when you get to the what I did well section, force yourself to write some things down. Even if it was just putting on pants before you got to the range. Hey, today I remembered to put on my pants. Today I followed my nutrition and hydration guidelines. Today I did a good job of recovering from disappointment. Today I did a good job of not talking about mistakes. Even if it's just one thing you did well, you got to write something down. And then your goals, I am becoming the best shooter in my state, province, country. I often win stages by doing X, X, and X. I always follow my mental process on every single stage. You're reinforcing what you want to be, the things you do well, and the things you always need to do. An occasional disappointing match is almost always a deviation from an established mental process. Almost always. The exceptions would be injury and equipment. Conditions, to a certain extent, conditions is more of a failure of training and self-image, but that's also a mental deviation. The solution is to identify and return to what works. But if you don't know what works when you're getting it right, how are you going to return to it? How are you going to do it? Hey, I was doing really well over here. Now I'm not doing so good. But if you don't know what you're doing when you're getting it right, how are you going to return to it? Or you never acknowledge the fact that you're getting it right. That's also a problem. When you're getting it right, you have to acknowledge that you're getting it right, and you have to know what you're doing from a mental perspective. You have to. Any sport. When things are going your way and you're winning, you have to know how and why and what you're doing. You can't just reinforce the win. Hey, got another W. It's not duplicable. Hey, I did these things and these things and these things, got another W. That's what you need to know. Now, pressure is interesting because, number one, it's stress caused by the perceived importance of the event. The only thing it can do is amplify your self-image. That's a little twist, isn't it? See, we used to say it can only amplify what you're thinking and feeling, but what you're thinking and feeling is largely a function of self-image, which is composed of your habits and your attitudes. I'm great at classifiers. I'm great at one-handed shooting. Pressure gives you more of that. I suck at steel. I suck at partials. Pressure gives you more vacuum in the suckage. Self-image works as RAM memory, short-term, and also hard drive, which is long-term memory. Now, what is in the short-term memory of your self-image will be factual in the short term, good or bad. But over time, whatever's in that short-term memory will fade back to the hard drive. So your job is to keep the hard drive, the long-term memory, and the RAM short-term memory positive and constructive. Well, here you go again. You're telling me to focus on what I do good and ignore my mistakes. I never said anything about that. Jeez, would you quit making up stuff I didn't say? Your RAM short-term memory can either contain problems or solutions. Your hard drive can either contain success or failure. But if you don't ever see success, you got nothing to draw on. And if you don't have any solutions and all you got is problems, now you got problems in your short-term memory and failures in your long-term memory. That's bad. Well, how can I avoid that? We all know I had a bad match. I get it. But you probably know the solution. And if you didn't know it before this program, you absolutely know it now. So here's the model. This is very abbreviated, but it works. Pre-accept the results to avoid worrying about them. And I'll tell you again, I don't care. It is what it is. I'll do well. I'm likely to win. 1 in 4 can't be faked. You can't make yourself not care, and you can't make yourself believe you're going to win if you don't believe it. So don't try. If you truly can not care, that's great. It's very difficult to do at an important competition. If you know you're going to win, that's wonderful, but that feeling cannot be faked. And those of you that are winning local matches, regional matches, national matches, you had a feeling at one time, hey, I'm going to win this thing. Hey, I deserve this win. And you know if you tried to fake that a month ahead of time, 2 months ahead of time, 6 months ahead of time, it can't be done. So pre-accept the results. It is what it is, and I'll do well are the 2 easiest ones to get to. And then establish a mental process. It looks like this. You need a subconscious stage plan with an active acknowledgement of your ability to execute it. This is what I'm going to do, and I can do it. Most of you, many of you are like, well, this is what I think I'm going to do, and I might be able to do it. That doesn't work. This is what I'm going to do, and I know that I can do it. That will work. And then right before you shoot, I'll tell you again, you've got to come up with a singular focus, which ideally is visual related, particularly in iron sights. Singular focus on vision. I will see what I need to see. Center the dot, call the shot. Pick a spot, send the shot. And then long term, you need positive reinforcement during training that your skills are great or improving. Well, I do good by being hard on myself. Everybody knows I suck. Well, welcome to the middle of the pack. Make yourself comfortable, sign the lease, and put down a deposit. You don't hear winners talking like that. Eric Greffel doesn't talk like that. Christian Seiler doesn't talk like that. Jay Beal doesn't talk like that. Joe Sauerland doesn't talk like that. Gaz Evans doesn't talk like that. Nils Jonassen doesn't talk like that. Middle of the Packers, they talk like that. So I'm going to leave you with this. What percentage of your shooting is mental? It's usually equal or higher than your classification. So if you're A class, it's 75% mental at a minimum. Master 85. C class, I think, is 65. I've never been in C class, so I don't know. 55, whatever C class is. Okay. C class, you're still learning technical things. So yes, it's still very important, primarily during training, but in C class, and for sure D class, we have so much to learn that the mental aspects are not quite as important. But once you get to M or G, that game is 85 to 95 to 100% mental. So here's the question. What percentage of your time and budget are you spending on the rental game? What percentage of your time and money are you spending on the mental game relative to the percentage that you just stated? All right, say your shooting budget out loud. If your wife's in the room, just say it to yourself. Your annual shooting budget. And then say, okay, here's my money budget. Here's my time budget. What am I spending on the mental game? If you're not doing a journal, right? So let's say you say it's mental and you go practice for 2 hours. All right, this game is 95% mental. I practice for 2 hours. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes working on my journal. The reality is you should probably spend an hour and 45 minutes working on your journal if you really believe it's mental. Okay. So, hope you've enjoyed this program on how to recover from a disappointing match. I can help anybody in any sport improve their mental game dramatically. I am loving working with the PRS guys. I'm loving working with the Steel Challenge shooters. I love working with the IDPA shooters. I love it all. So if you've got a mental problem, please come see me and let's get it fixed. Okay, we can do mental management virtually anytime you want. Australia's tough because it's 15 hours ahead. I mean, those guys are living in the future. You need a flux capacitor to do business in Australia. But please go to andersonshooting.com, check out upcoming classes. If you'd like to do mental management at a time that's not listed there, let me know what that time is at steve@andersonshooting.com, and we will get it done. And until we meet again, be like me, do what I do, say it with me. 1, 2, 3, get to work.